All right, hello. It's time to call out Channel 12. I know we're a little bit late here to call our friends at South Shore 12, but it has to be done because this is what happened in a lot of areas in the middle of the island. This image, courtesy of PSG Long Island, showing you a whole tree that is hanging over a roadway on some power lines somewhere, it looks like on the North Shore. And this is what happened in a lot of areas on the North Shore and in the middle of the island today. But South Shore 12, well, they don't really care about that. They're all focused on the South Shore, as they always are. Well, that's New Jersey. Let's go to South Shore 12, first of all, because you can see they were all over the South Shore today, pretty much. Storm surge leads to further beach erosion on the South Fork. Suffolk County Executive asked state to send help. And meanwhile, the stores in the middle of the island, well, they don't really get much coverage. Like the school closing in Syosset only got 46 seconds. I understand the storm obviously taking priority, obviously, but the storm affected a lot of areas across Long Island, and yet it's all about the South Shore. I mean, seriously, all about the South Shore here. All about the South Shore, seriously. Babylon. Pretty wild weather across the South Shore. Worse than Sandy. Fire Island. I don't know why Hudson Valley's coming in here. Drone footage from flooding in Babylon and Massapequa. Coastal flooding and concern along the South Shore. Storm moves out. I mean, literally every single story about the South Shore. Trying to find any coverage at all about from the middle of the island. This is the only story they had that was from the middle of the island. The only one. Out of like 10 things on the damn South Shore, they only reported on one thing in the middle of the island. Unbelievable. It's just all about the South Shore. This network completely just ignores us, but it's all part of this whole mentality here on Long Island where it's always about the South Shore, and everybody else just doesn't seem to matter because it's all about those kind of... The South Shore is very popular with the movers and shakers, the people who run New York State in the finance sector, the white people that work on Wall Street. So therefore, they are going to get all the attention. So we're going to start off looking at this story, actually, from the middle of the island, because it's the sole story that Channel 12 felt like covering in the middle of the island today.
Continue our Stormwatch team coverage with Jen in Plainview, taking a look at some of the traffic conditions.
This was
out
from
here
this morning, by the way.
Yeah, definitely a scary situation out here, Rich. No traffic light at this busy intersection.
Traffic light got
here
knocked
in
down.
Plainview, South Oyster Bay Road, Old Country Road. If this is part of your morning commute, you know this could be a congested area. As of now, no traffic light. What's left is part of that pole, and you can see a wire hanging down. But everything has been cleared since last night.
Looks like there's power in the area, at least.
I believe one of my colleagues got video in her car capturing that traffic light just on the ground here at that busy intersection. Now we have police here blocking many of these
pretty
roadways.
Serious wind.
We have utility workers
wind that we got.
also here on scene. And
Still,
even
it only
5
got
o'clock in the morning,
so
we've seen a lot of cars already making their way in this direction. They're cutting through the gas station. They're cutting through Burger King over here just because this area is still blocked off. And we also have seen tractor trailers making their way over here too and doing a complete turnaround because they just can't get to this intersection. I can't tell you when this traffic light will be back up, but from standing here for the past hour, it looks like it's not happening anytime soon. So again, if this is part of your morning commute around here,
I guess it doesn't seem to be a priority for the county. I believe that's a county traffic light, but Bruce Blakeman's too concerned about the South Shore like this network, obviously. So that was your only story in the middle of the island. Then we go up here and we say, all right, we have PSCGLI works to restore power to thousands.
And thousands of Long Islanders are dealing with power outages this morning as we deal with the aftermath from the storm.
So joining us now is PSCG Long Island Communications Director Katie Tatzel. Katie, what are we seeing? We did say that we think that we got through it a little better than expected, but we still do have thousands of outages today.
Good morning. Yes, our crews have been working throughout the night to restore power as quickly and safely as possible. Currently, we have a little bit more than 4,000 customers out
I think they actually did pretty good.
Restore your power.
And it seems like
in Nass,
no video,
Oyster Bay, Brookhaven, and Islip.
She's just talking about the hardest hit areas, I guess.
You're very communicative when the power goes out, sending text messages. But if people don't know if...
Absolutely. Reported the outage, please
At least they interviewed PSG Long Island, but they didn't send any reporters. And this only got 24 seconds. Car stolen in Elmont. Nobody cares. It's the middle of the island. It's crime-ridden. People expect it. South Shore, here we go. Coastal flooding concern along the South Shore. Here we are in Freeport, so I'll show you all the areas.
Continue our flooding tour of Long Island, going from Massapequa to Freeport, a community that's...
You know, there was also flooding in the middle of the island, you know. We had some roads closed off last night that I did talk about, particularly a very busy intersection at New York 24 and Route 110 in East Farmingdale. But, yeah, they only think flooding happens on the South Shore, apparently.
No stranger to these conditions. Our Alex Calamia has another hat on. He is joining us now, showing us how much water is on the ground there, Alex.
Oh, you can see you're just...
Yeah, Tara, so you can see behind me still plenty of water here on Guy Lombardo Avenue. It is a lot better here as well than it was earlier this morning. You have to keep in mind that here is Randall Park. Obviously, this water has nowhere to go on this street. So even though we are now approaching low tide, we still have issues. This morning on Nautical Mile, we had kegs from the restaurants on Nautical Mile. Yeah,
all about the South Shore.
Now, when that tide behind, there are also a lot of stranded cars that the major roads.
This is an area that's going to flood a lot now as we deal with more and more climate change. But you know, they just want to invest in those areas on the South Shore. They don't really care. They care more about demographics than and the plan than about common sense.
I'm Jen Seelig, and we are in Mastic
Beach
this
South Shore
afternoon,
again.
continuing our storm team coverage. We are now on Woodside Drive, where there's really not much road behind me because it's completely still underwater. Some good news, though, is that I do see the water somewhat receding slowly, but it is, which is good. But we can't get there, obviously, because of this water. Water goes straight on the front.
I just have a one-track mind
no
about
work
this.
Today. I have to be home to take care of this mess. And they know every time we get this kind of weather, all right, Joe's not going to be here today.
So, yeah, it's this is what happens in these areas, and it's just going to continue to get worse and worse and worse as the climate crisis worsens. Here we are again, Babylon, Massapequa. I mean, all over the South Shore. Look how many stories they have on the South Shore. It's just 7 minutes and 16 seconds of drone footage of flooding of Babylon and Massapequa. I understand. Yeah, the road is flooded. I don't see it in people's yards, though. At least. No, but they're all over this. They're all over this. This whole thing. It's like this is the only area that matters in Long Island. This the only area they're covering. I mean, these people are right on the water. What do they expect? You know, this is going to be the new normal. This is what's happening as we're dealing with more and more of the climate crisis. But they just want more money thrown at it. You'll see as we get further up here. Worse than Sandy. Rain and powerful wind batter Fire Island. South Shore again.
Conditions over on a battered Fire Island.
Look at her. She's just so representative of the kind of demographic.
Joining us is Thomas Ruskin, the president of the Seaview Association.
And you're going to hear him beg for more money again.
Not doing it. What is the answer for Fire Island?
Well, the answer is the replenishment of the dunes.
No, the answer is abandoning the development of Fire Island, starting to remove development from Fire Island and make it purely a natural habitat. That is the answer. And where are the people in Fire Island going to move to? Well, how about inland? How about that? But no, they don't want to hear it. Because it's only going to get worse. This guy just wants more money thrown at it. It's unbelievable.
And a stopgap project by the Army Corps and Great Lakes, their vendor. But what's happening today on Fire Island is worse than we've seen during Sandy.
Let's see if he mentions climate change at all. We're going to watch this whole thing.
Running through the island. Power is now off between Robbins Rest and Ocean Bay Park, with the PSE&G substation underwater being pumped out. It's a terrible condition over there today after this storm, only looking towards Saturday's storm coming right around the corner.
That was going to be my next question for you. I mean, we are in this unsettled pattern. There's no telling when the rain is going to cease, and it's not going
and no mention of climate change so far. Let's see if they even mention it.
Going to, because we're going to go from rain to then winter weather at some point. So for those of you who love this area, who call it home, how do you navigate what is still to come and what you need to do to protect this area?
Well, I mean, we have to call on our elected officials from the government
and
the Army Corps of Engineers and Great Lakes being their vendor to replenish our beaches. What we learned this morning, which was very interesting,
replenish our beaches. So every time they replenish the beach every year at the cost of millions and millions of dollars, right? That millions and millions of dollars could go to help people find affordable housing. It could help to build transit. But no, these people, they wanted to spend it only for it to get washed away in the next storm, which will be worse. The sea levels are rising, but they don't want to hear it.
Army Corps of Engineers is replenishing half the island from the midpoint portion of my community, Seaview, to the west. What we learned this morning is that Great Lakes, their vendor, any area that they pumped before this storm that they have now put into the federal government for reimbursement is not going to be replenished again. So basically,
it shouldn't be replenished again.
That has already been.
How much more money are we going to throw at this problem? We need to harden our infrastructure. Forget about protecting your little enclave. We need to harden our infrastructure, our electric grid, our roads, our transit, because it's only going to get worse. But this guy would rather spend money trying to live somewhere that is not sustainable under the current climate crisis.
Done by the Army Corps is gone and is not going to be replenished.
Thomas, as we continue to see the images up on our screen just showing the extent of what happened there today, you alluded to what Fire Island has seen in the past, saying that this is worse. Does Fire Island get through this continuous pattern of weather? Can it sustain itself going forward? I know you need the help.
It's not sustainable.
What else? Because
that's
so far
just
nothing's
the point.
Worked.
I think, yes, the answer to your question is yes. I think with the help of the Army Corps and other federal partners, we can get through this. The important thing to understand here is that Fire Island, being a barrier beach, is the protection for the South Shore of Long Island. It basically
all about the South Shore. All about, we've got to protect the South Shore. They're invaluable. They're invaluable. They're way more important than everybody else in the middle of the island of the North Shore. We've got to protect them.
From being also decimated as well. So it's very important as taxpayers, like anywhere else in this country, that they help us to protect the South Shore of Long Island.
Your message is an important one today, and we thank you for sharing it with us.
And not one word, not one mention of climate change.
Druskin, president of the Seaview Association, wishing you well.
These people you see on the screen are exactly the kind of ignorant people that probably voted for Donald Trump a second time, and will probably vote for him a third, and a fourth, and a fifth, and a sixth, and a seventh, and 100th time if they could, just denying that there's a climate crisis, denying that we're seeing the climate change, and that living on the South Shore along the water is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. But these people, they don't want to hear it. They want to take taxpayer money and throw more taxpayer money at a problem that's literally you're throwing money down the drain, replenishing those beaches, whatever. It's money down the drain. But these people, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. On to the next story. Here we go. Pretty wild across Nassau's South Shore. I mean, you cannot make this up. You cannot make this up. Here we go again.
Peakwood Island Park. There was
off
plenty
Island Park now.
News12 Cecilia Dowd is in Freeport right now, where
Freeport
conditions
again.
seem to have improved a little bit. Now, have things gotten any better throughout the day, Cecilia?
Joe, they have gotten better here. As you can see, it's dry, but
Island
boy,
Park
did the South Shore of Nassau take a hit.
It's like, seriously,
now,
this is what it's going to be like when the hurricane hits, all right? We're going to all be sitting in the dark in Mineola and across many of the middle of the island towns. Roads blocked by fallen trees. Nobody's going to talk about it. They're all going to be focused on the South Shore. By then, we'll probably have LIPA back, so the corruption will be even worse with that, and they'll try to get the power back for the South Shore. And we'll be sitting in the dark for days, if not weeks, just like after Sandy, completely forgotten.
Mile and this restaurant behind me, Jeremy's Ale House, the manager there says they had 2 feet of water. But residents here tell me this wasn't the first time, it won't be the last time, and it's just a way of life. Across the South Shore of Nassau County, streets submerged.
Last night, horrific. One of the worst I've seen, with waves crashing over bulkheads.
There's Mr. Massapequa. Meanwhile, Hicksville's dead, but you don't care. It's okay to have illegals stacked up in illegal homes in Hicksville, right? And have fires putting the fire department at risk. That's okay. He doesn't give a damn. It's all about the South Shore.
Streets filling with
Mr.
water.
Water hit every South Shore community from Island Park to Freeport to Massapequa. They all look the same, all underwater. Check out this water coming onto land from the Great South Bay in Massapequa. Megan Haggerty described the weather as
look at her, she's really important.
Last night I was up reading by the bay window watching it, and within like 10-15 minutes at like 11, it completely flooded like the little grass triangle by our house.
What do you expect?
I think
the water
went over my dock. I actually live on the water down the block right here.
First world
I
problem.
haven't really seen it like that.
These
ever.
are the privileged. Look, she even
Last
comes to the
few
annoying
years,
voice. Look
we've
at
seen
that.
high tides and storm surges get worse and worse. We've reached out to the federal government, to the state government to get more help, and we're hoping to see that.
More help, more help, more help, more help. What about help for the middle of the island? What about help for people who are trying to survive on Long Island, who are getting forced out of Long Island? What about help for improving our infrastructure? No, it's all about these people. Time and time again, it's all about them.
Stranger to water.
We have like two feet water. We move everything out before we prepare everything we have to do.
It's like somebody takes the plug out of the bathtub and the water goes away. We're getting used to it, but everybody gets together and
we're just going to live it up anyway.
When these things happen.
These things happen. Climate change doesn't exist.
Now, despite the headaches, as you can hear, many residents taking it all in stride, several telling me over the past 24 hours, they just love living near the water. Reporting from Freeport,
Love living near the water. Well, that's what you're going to have to deal with then. That's it. And don't ask for money to help you. You made the choice to live near the water. I don't think the taxpayers in the middle of the island should have to pay for your stupidity. All right? No, I don't think so. Here we go with the next story. Storm leaves some streets in Babylon underwater. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Rain and damaging winds left streets flooded and water in places where it shouldn't be. Some people saying it's the worst they've seen since Superstorm Sandy.
And again, no mention of climate change here.
News 12's Krista McNally in one of those hard-hit areas, Babylon Village. Krista, how are things tonight?
Things are still not good here in Babylon. The water came in and it has gone down somewhat, but take a look right now. Many of these streets still completely impassable. It is like a waterway rather than a roadway. And now Babylon Village has issued an order that nobody who does not live in these communities is permitted to drive down here.
There's a legal problem with that, actually, because those are public streets. They can't actually shut them down to the public. So the Village of Babylon is actually breaking the law here. But again, they're snobs. They can do whatever they want, right?
Because the water is simply flowing down the streets. It's also going up into people's driveways. So if cars are going fast up and down these blocks, the wake is going into people's properties, causing a lot of frustration in this area. Many people also frustrated because they weren't able to get their kids to or even from school today. Many thought these conditions would be totally cleared out by the time it was, time to get the kids off of the bus after school, and it wasn't. That is not the situation here. Many of these communities still have a lot of water. We are on Lee Avenue, and that's near the Fred Shores area in Babylon, and they had a lot of water. And as you can see, it's up around the bend. This entire roadway still filled. To give you an idea of how expansive the water was, take a look at this drone footage that we shot earlier in the day. In this drone footage, you can see all of these small canal streets, even the major roadway of Little East Neck Road, just totally filled with water. And for many of these people, the water has not left. Some getting water in their basement, some seeing their garbage cans floating up and down the street. Well, there is just a lot that needs to be done in this area. Still, we spoke with the Babylon Town Supervisor, Richie Schaefer, just a short while ago. Take a listen to what he had to say.
We always are working on check valves and road raisings that we've been doing in communities like Fred Shores in Babylon, West Babylon area, as well as American Venice, which is in Lindenhurst. But even though you can see the work that we did, that water came in very fast during the high tide this morning, and is now starting.
And mind you, Rich Schaefer is a Democrat, but he's still a climate denier.
To recede, but there isn't anything that we can do with that amount of water being pushed into from the bay onto the street.
It's all part of climate
The
change.
best we can do is work in under our emergency situation, where we've got all of our volunteer fire departments on standby.
Again, a lot of water filling these roads. So if you are driving in the South Shore community, specifically here in Babylon, where we have been all day, it is your best bet to use caution and stay inside if you don't have to go out. Again, if you don't live in these communities in Babylon Village, you are now not permitted to go past the code enforcement officers that are waiting along Montauk Highway to check.
That's actually unconstitutional. Our public tax dollars pay for a lot of those roads in the village. So anyone can drive down them. Those are public roads, not private roads. But apparently the village of Babylon thinks otherwise. Like I said, proving themselves to once again
check people's IDs to make sure that they are actually going to their home.
That's not constitutional. I'd love to see the Long Island Audit go down there and put a challenge to that, because that's not, they can't do that. It's not a private road. They cannot do that. All right? But again, they're snobs. They think they can do whatever they want to do. Let's see what else. We got some more here. Here we go. More South Shore. South Fork. It just doesn't end. Now we're off to the South Fork.
Because of the flooding from the storm.
This is TV for the privileged snobs, this network.
I'm telling you. Many locations out east that was battered by the
storm.
The
sad reality of it. Well, I'll say it at the end of the video.
Still working to recover. An angry ocean, lots of sand, and
all about the South
debris.
Shore again.
Just some of what's left behind in the aftermath of last night's storm that blew through and into Long Island South Fork.
I'm not saying this isn't horrible, all right? I feel bad for the people impacted by this, but this is part of what we are going to expect as we undergo this rapidly worsening climate. And yet they act surprised. Oh, my God, this is happening. Like a million scientists have been talking about this for like many years, so stop playing dumb.
It packed a punch, for sure. The wind and the rain last night was intense.
The storm surge was so intense, it sent the ocean pouring onto the beaches in Montauk, over roads and into front lawns. Parts of Montauk are now littered with debris, including this massive piece of driftwood at Ditch Plains Beach.
That's pretty big. I don't think I've seen this parking lot really look like this.
Note that we haven't seen much diversity
at Main Beach in East Hampton, the storm sent the ocean and sand surging past the shore and into the parking lot.
We filmed that the last
People
time.
we spoke with who came to see the damage for themselves say despite not being strangers to powerful storms on the East End, the storm surge this time was different.
This is probably the worst I've seen in 30 years.
And in Hampton Bays, almost 24 hours after the storm started, parts of Dune Road are still closed because of flooding.
Dune Road, where a lot
East
of
End residents say they are worried about their beloved beaches and coastlines that they say are shrinking with every storm.
A hit like this makes it harder for it to come back.
But we can't mention climate change, can we? We can't do that. It's against the policy of South Shore 12 to mention the two words climate change or global warming.
And as the East End works to recover from this storm, police and town officials are urging people not to drive through flooded roads and to stay clear of the beaches while they clean up all of that debris. Kevin?
Unbelievable. So there you go. It just goes on and on. Let's see. Another one on the South Shore. I mean, it's been like this.
Aftermath. Both counties were hit pretty hard.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, some of the worst damage was on Suffolk's South Shore.
The
South Shore again. Let's go to the South Shore.
And now some want the governor to step in.
News 12's Kevin Vesey is in Bayshore right now with a look at some of the damage.
Bayshore. Now we're in Bayshore.
Good evening, Joe and Antoinette. So believe it or not, some roads are still flooded at this hour. Take a look at this residential street here in Bayshore. You can see it is still completely covered in water. There was also major damage on Fire Island. So now the Suffolk County executive wants the state to come in and do its part.
Now we're asking for the state for money now.
Work crews spent the day and night pumping out water on Maple Avenue in Bayshore near Whalers Restaurant. On South Pennetiquet Avenue, the flooding was so bad, some say this storm ranks among the most destructive they've ever seen.
Sandy was worse. This was the second worst.
On Fire Island, the community of Kismet was underwater, and there was major beach erosion in Seaview.
The ocean came over the dunes.
Thomas Ruskin with the Seaview Association says a new breach opened up during the storm. He wants the Army Corps of Engineers to restore sand to the Barrier Island beaches.
Looks like the type.
Fire Island protects the South Shore of Long Island. It also, the people there are taxpayers like they are anywhere in this country, and deserve the protection as a taxpayer.
Here we go again.
Governor Kathy Hochul wrote on X that New York avoided the worst of the storm and offered to help neighboring states.
I wouldn't say we avoided
Suffolk
the worst
County
of it.
Executive Ed Romaine says the governor should declare a state of emergency for Long Island.
That would qualify us for FEMA aid. So we're hoping that the governor will do
I
that.
think Phil Murphy has declared a state of emergency.
Rebuild our dunes and help our beaches.
Now, we reached out to the governor's office for a comment, but so far they have not gotten back to us. Meanwhile, Joe and Antoinette, residents here in Bayshore, are still waiting for this water to recede.
Yeah, that water
And
is
we get
still
to
there
go
tonight.
through it again all over again on Friday. Isn't that lovely? So here we go. That's what it's all about, all about the South Shore there. Meanwhile, let's contrast it to what we have on News 12 New Jersey, shall we? Because New Jersey, News 12 New Jersey, completely different. All over the state, they covered everything all over the state here. Jersey proud, first responders, volunteers, and look at this. Governor Phil Murphy is touring the flood damage. I don't see Governor Hochul touring any of the flood damage. See, this is inland floods, all right? Inland floods in New Jersey, all right?
But obviously,
they're not all over the shore, News 12 New Jersey. No, they cover the whole state. That's what Long Island's News 12 should be doing. But no, they're just all about the South Shore.
Still in effect around the state. Cleanup efforts continue for many homeowners. And this is from Lodi tonight with an update.
And Lodi is not an enclave.
Now, not only are we expected to get more rain, but some of our rivers haven't crested just yet, and that
the rivers haven't crested and stuff. I'm not going to play the whole
has
thing.
Lived here for over 30 years, and
it's totally different. The feel of News 12 New Jersey is
last
completely
night's storm
different.
Brought flooding, but last month's storm cleared out her basement.
We have all basement full of water, so whatever we have there.
Every single person that News 12 Long Island interviewed was white. News 12 New Jersey is completely different.
We had to replace, we had to take it off. So now I don't have nothing.
For a good part of the day and into the evening.
And these people are actually dealing with a lot worse than what the people on Long Island did, even though they had the flooding and got into the basement. These people here in Lodi and a lot of the areas along the rivers had their whole homes flooded. So much worse.
Were hard to navigate because many of them were closed with flooding following last night's storm. Flooding was so bad in some parts, this shipping contaner was carried about a quarter mile downriver from where
this
it was.
This is Lodi, Bergen County. So they're all over the state.
Space in Hoboken, which takes
There's Phil Murphy. That's a man who actually cares about everybody in New Jersey. Unlike the people that run in our government here on Long Island, that only are looking out for a certain demographic. Phil Murphy cares about everybody.
Those waters and funnels them into places away from homes.
Governor Murphy also reminded residents that we're not in the clear just yet, and several of our rivers will be cresting in the coming days.
Don't tempt fate, don't tempt Mother Nature by going down a street which says don't come here.
He knows we're in a climate crisis. He knows how serious things are.
You feel like the water's rising above you.
And as for Ambrosia Garcia, who's used to getting the runaround after a flood event, is debating whether or not she wants to stay.
Try to see what they're gonna say, and then what they're gonna tell me, or I sell the house, I leave it to them, or I don't know.
So again, a look at News 12 New Jersey, just completely different. Flooding causes traffic issues around Passaic County. I mean, they're all over the state. They cover the whole state.
Flooding closed major roads. Reaching News 12 New Jersey's Jyoti Reiki tonight.
They cover the whole
Not
state.
many cars on the roadway anymore, but it was a much different scene when we got here earlier during rush hour. Drivers that I
noticed how much more diverse their group of staff is.
Say
it's
that
like totally
they're
different.
definitely frustrated and over this, but they know that another storm is on the way. Gridlock on Route 23 in Wayne.
It's just long. It's just boring, you know.
Cars
totally different type of feels for this station. Totally different.
It gets pretty bad, and I also live by the mall, and the whole street gets covered in water as soon as the river goes up.
Rainwater and melted snow pooling on Route 23 as a pit. Several businesses on the busy highway closing their doors to possible customers due to the flooding. This image coming into News 12 from a business owner looking at some of the damage his neighbors will come back to.
This is what
the front of this motorcycle shop filled with floodwater.
So Hamburg Turnpike is backed up because the
totally different the
dam
kind of people
over there
they interview on the
opened
station.
it,
You notice
so
the
it
difference?
flooded out all over there.
You notice the difference that it's
gridlocked
diverse.
on Hamburg Turnpike, as you see on Route 20. It's been hectic and crazy.
Friends telling us that the water.
It's been pretty
pretty miserable in the mornings. You know, this
I just
morning,
like
when I was
the
supposed to
people
get
in
to
New
school at
Jersey
9,
is just
I
so
woke
much
up
more
at-
down to
Later
earth.
on this
you
week,
know?
having him just hope for the best.
First, it was that flooding earlier. Then it was the snow. Now it's this flooding again. And
All
then
right,
it's
and then we go. And we're gonna go back in here. We're gonna get some more news here because they were in Ocean County too, which is where I'm gonna be winding up living eventually. It's gonna be happening eventually. Middlesex County flooding.
In the borough of Middlesex are still on edge as an often overflowing creek with one of them.
They're all
Ken
over
Beck
the county.
says realtors
all
told
all over
storm
the.
or flooding event with.
I'm not sure how much I've lost, but we'll figure that out tomorrow.
Beck's property has been undercut about 15 to 20.
We've gone to the auction, know nothing. Everybody just keeps pointing the finger to another agency.
The creek connects.
On the Sebrings Mill pumps.
So this is Middlesex.
Pumps 100,000 gallons a minute. So just imagine
That's in
that.
Central Jersey. Yeah, we're gonna go back even more here. Heavy rains, coastal flooding, power outages. Here we go. Coastal flooding to the Jersey Shore. They were all over the state. They covered the whole state. They covered everything. All right, News 12 New Jersey is like a completely different
Rain left
organization.
entire neighborhoods underwater. The tide coming up higher than expected, catching even some storm-savvy locals off guard at the Jersey Shore. News 12 New Jersey's Jim Murdoch shows us the flooding seen around the Barnegat Bay.
And this is another area that got hit very hard. This looks a lot worse than what we got, by the way.
Bayhead to Brick, all along the Barnegat Bay, water spilled into the streets, and in some cases, homes.
The storm was well advertised. Did it deliver as promised?
It did, and then some.
The Shore Acres section of Brick Township got hit exceptionally hard. Water covered the streets up to nearly a half-mile inland.
You think you had everything battened down and tied up tight, but always Mother Nature's got another plan, and she likes to throw you some curveballs.
From Drone 12, streets turned into lagoons. Lagoons turned into lakes. Over on the island, a trip to the bakery will have to wait.
Yeah,
Side
this is really
streets in
bad.
Bayhead and Maniloking impassable. Driving on Route...
It's pretty bad, and this is the worst I've seen in 22 years. So, I mean, outside of Sandy, I mean, obviously Sandy, the town was devastated, but this is...
Dunes held up along the beachfront as the worst of the wind and waves.
Sure, everybody's okay, of course. You know, the structural damage, just getting in and out. School buses had a hard time getting down the road
Everybody's
today,
just
so
so
kids
different. The
still had
mentality of this
school.
whole
They
station
didn't
is just
cancel or
different.
delay
A totally
back
different
here.
feeling.
So just concerned for everybody's safety.
The next high tide for the northern
Really
parts
is.
of Barnegat Bay, not scheduled until 9 p.m. to around midnight with the gusty west wind. That is helping drain the ocean. We're not expecting anything like this for the next round of high tide.
Hopefully not. And yeah, we got more flood. They were all over the state. Doing a great job here. Another story about power outages.
Down trees. Last night's storm also took down power lines, causing tens of thousands of power outages. Spokespeople for two major utility providers say that their crews are still working to reach some areas.
So they're having trouble
The
reaching
winds
some
are going
areas
to
here.
continue, right? So we may have some situations where the bucket
She's
trucks
from
may not
PSE&G,
still
and then we
be
have,
able to get up to do those repairs
JCP&L.
because of the weather.
Where we really get concerned with the storms when we see them back to back like this is that saturated soil. It does increase the likelihood that trees can uproot and come down.
The soil is saturated.
Be sure to stay with News 12 New Jersey
Hey,
for
look at that. What's that over there? That looks like that could be a pitch pine right there in the right-hand corner
power
of the
outage
screen right
updates
there.
as crews can.
Look at that. Wow. Those never make an appearance in South Shore 12. Okay, so there you go. I think that's most of the storm coverage from News 12 New Jersey here. Do some more tracking storms. They were all over the state. They did a great job covering the whole thing. They really did. News 12 speaks with Governor Murphy. Again, where's Kathy Hochul? She hasn't done any interviews yet. She's ignoring the news media.
State of emergency. What are the
Let's
factors
listen to what
that
Phil
you
Murphy
take
has
into
to
consideration here, and what are the assets that a state of emergency brings?
Yeah, the factors on this one, this is
See,
complicated.
he declared a state of emergency, but Kathy Hochul has not.
The event itself is going to be significant. Up to 4 inches of rain, very high winds, power outages, I believe.
Oh, this
will
is
be
before the
significant.
storm.
As we speak, they're just over 12,000, and that number is going to go up, I think, meaningfully. So the event itself is concerning. but it comes on the heels of both a significant rain event and a significant snow event. So the ground is saturated, there's packed in snow, so all of the concerns you'd have with the event itself are only magnified. It gives us a lot more latitude is really the answer to what does it give us. There are a lot more degrees of freedom, and it became in effect at 5 o'clock this afternoon. We think the worst of this is going to be between now and sort of middle of the night, 2 to 4 a.m., and I would just plead
Kathy Hochul never went on the media to talk about it.
People, don't go out unless you absolutely have to. Please, this is a night to stay home.
Governor, we know you called a state of emergency, but also some city mayors have called a state of emergency, like Patterson. So what is the difference between the cities calling the state of emergency and yours?
Well, I don't have a specific read as to what Patterson's state allows them to do, and I'm not saying this to pull rank because Patterson has got a terrific mayor and is one of our great cities, but the real legal authority comes at the state level. We saw that during the pandemic where we were calling states of emergency for health reasons. There's no difference here as it relates to a storm. There's just a lot more latitude and heft at the state level, and obviously we don't take it lightly. This is a decision we take very carefully, but on this one, unfortunately, we felt strongly we needed to put it in place.
Governor Murphy, we appreciate you taking the time. I know it's going to be a busy night ahead and definitely a busy cleanup in front of everybody else. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
I like Phil Murphy. He's so down to earth. It's just so different there in New Jersey, man. I'm telling you, it's so different. Here, it's just all about the white financial professionals and their little enclaves, and it's totally different. Meanwhile, let's take a look at power outages here. We'll start with Long Island. We only have 45 people without power on Long Island, so it looks like most of the outages have been fixed. We still have one going on in New Hyde Park, another one in Plainview. None on the South Shore whatsoever, except for Fire Island, where there is one power outage there. But that's about it. And it looks like there's a small one in Eastport there. But other than that, that's it. Now, JCP&L is doing a lot worse. They still have 5,000 plus outages, and you can see there are a number of smaller outages left around Ocean County, including Double Trouble State Park, which is without power. They put up a notice about the power being out there at Double Trouble State Park, probably due to a fallen tree on a power line or a fallen branch or whatever. But you can see there's still a lot of mostly smaller outages that JCP&L is working on right now. And they did get hit harder than we did, obviously. But next time we may not be so lucky, obviously. But it just goes to show you how forgotten we are here in the middle of the island. If you go to Newsday.com, it's just all about the South Shore. I mean, it's always about the South Shore. It's like the rest of us just don't even matter. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's always about the South Shore. I go to even the city stations, and they're probably going to just talk about the South Shore. It's always about, or we had to have a derailment on the subway, but it's always about the South Shore. It's always about the South Shore. We don't even have a coverage of that tree and power line that fell at Glen Cove. We don't even have information on that. We don't even have information on that. So I'm going to go to Twitter here and see if we can find some more information, because it seems like we're just completely forgotten. So we're going to look at the railroad, too, for a minute. Signal trouble at Montauk. Let's see what problems we've had on the railroad today. Long Beach branch. There was flooding on the Long Beach branch, resulting in a suspension because of flooding. Not a surprise there. It was due to flooding this morning here between Long Beach and Valley Stream. It was Island Park, which is not surprising. They have bus service will accommodate, so N15 is cross-honoring. Switch prom at Port Jefferson. Weather-related signal trouble. Bethpage, we had that problem. Let's see if we can find Glen Cove storm. Let's see if we can find any information about that wire that came down, because you can see nothing. Nothing. The Weather Service said there was a video. I don't know where the video is. Nobody has shared that video with the media. Basically, if we go to the Weather Service webpage and look at local storm reports, and I'll just search for Glen Cove here. Let's see if we can find and page. There should be a search function here or something that I could do a find, but I can't find it. But somewhere in here, there is a picture or a mention of wind damage in Glen Cove. We went over this in the weather update, but I'll look for it again here. It's somewhere in here. See, we had flash flooding in Lake Success. Nobody covered that. Middle of the island just doesn't exist. Marcus Avenue in Manhasset closed due to flooding. Nope, that didn't get covered. Nope. It's just about the South Shore. That's it. Everything else is just completely forgotten. I can find that thing about Glen Cove. I'm going to try to find it, see if we can find it in here. There's got to be a way to find on this page. Let's see. Save as. Doesn't give me the option to go look for something, apparently. But there is something in here that we'll find the report in Glen Cove here for a minute. It was in Nassau County, and it was in Glen Cove that we had those wires down. And there was actually a video mentioned of it, if we can find it here. Need to waste your time here. I'm sure it's somewhere in here, because I did read it when I did the weather update. Here we go. Non-thunderstorm wind damage. So here we go. Wind damage in Glen Cove. There was a video of downed power lines blocking the tracks and a fire from the downed power lines that South Shore 12 never bothered to cover and that I can't even find. I don't even know if they mentioned the video, but there is no link to the video. So all we have is where the patch doesn't have anything. If you're not on the South Shore, it's like you might as well not exist. That's what I've said a million times before. It's unbelievable what goes on this island. It's just about these people. It's always about them. And the rest of us, we just don't matter. We just don't count. And I'm sick and tired of it, man. I'm sick and tired of it, but I know it's all part of the plan. If you can't, and I got to fight to live with them. And if I can't live with them, then I got to leave Long Island because those are the only people that matter. The rest of us, we don't even exist. In the eyes of News 12, in the eyes of the politicians, we don't even exist. And if you want to live somewhere where you're going to matter, where everybody's going to matter, well, you're going to have to go shut up and live in New Jersey. So I think that wraps this up here, this little rant on this. Again, I mean, like 10 stories on the South Shore, and they only had one, like, token story in Plainview that wasn't even that good. It really is unbelievable. You guys, once again, South Shore 12, should be ashamed of yourselves, and we've got another storm coming in. This is just a warm-up when the hurricane comes, how bad it's going to be, how forgotten it's going to be. And I don't even want to be, if it's a bad hurricane, I'm evacuating this area. I'm not gonna be here. I may be better off going to New Jersey for it. I'm not going to be here because I know this area is going to be completely forgotten and ignored, just like it is with this storm. It's going to continue to be forgotten and ignored. Businesses will leave, particularly central Nassau. This area just doesn't exist. One of my viewers said that there was actually no power at the Nassau County Legislature building today. I couldn't find anything about it. And, of course, nobody talked about it because, again, this is the dead zone. Mineola, especially Hicksville, Mineola, Westbury, Carl Place, New Hyde Park. This is a dead zone. This is a black hole. We are completely and utterly forgotten. Like I said, we may as well just not exist. And that's all. I think that I made my video long enough. And if you made it through the whole thing, thank you for watching very much.